Oh, the feels, they're everywhere. Sean C back in here for another anime review, and let's hop right into it. Pretty much the second half of this episode is all about Boruto versus Iwabe, so I'm going to hold that for now. And we're going to go on to some parts of this episode that I thought were really cool. Some of the other kids' personalities, and kind of this weird new thing Boruto's trying to do. So the episode starts out, they're going into the academy. Boruto's has this carefree attitude, doesn't seem to be stressed about it. He seems to actually be happier now that he doesn't have Hinata on his back, telling him to study before the academy starts. And it just goes to show you the contrast and the comparison between what someone with structure is able to do versus someone without, because Naruto never studied because he didn't have anybody on his back to tell him to study. Boruto's got Hinata, and I don't think he realizes that just yet. So pretty much throughout the episode, Boruto is actually trying to be friendly. Again, they do things in this episode to remind you of how Naruto used to be. So I remember when Naruto went into the Chunin exam, and first thing he said was, not that I want to be friends. He said, I'm going to beat everybody in here. Boruto is kind of the opposite by saying, I want to be friends with everybody in here, which is still a little naive, but Boruto at least seems to be an overall person who wants to congregate with other people. The only problem he has with anybody, I think, is Naruto. However, Inojin is pretty much just like the old Sai. Now, the slight difference between Inojin and Sai is that I still think Inojin knows the value or the meaning of what it means to have a friend. And he also seems to have this group of principles in his own mind, but he's still just as cold, he's still just as outspoken, just as direct as the old Sai used to be. Proves that by saying that Boruto is basically riding the coattails of Naruto, and it seems like Boruto is actually looking past all these insults, looking past all these demeaning words and trying to be friends with everybody. And I'm not saying that that's not cool, I wonder if this is a motive that Boruto has, or if he really feels like he can be friends with these people. And again, I think that was a big thing with the creator of the series. He wanted to make it so that each character, even though they were children of the previous characters from the previous series, he still wanted to make it so that they had their own identity. And I can definitely see with this series is probably going to be a little difficult for him to do that, because Shikadai acts a lot like Shikamaru. Nojin, like I said, has those strong characteristics from Sai. And even Sarada acts basically like a mixture of Sasuke and Sakura, because right before or right as Boruto is fighting Iwabe, she tries to act like she doesn't care. You know, like, this is beneath me, it's not worth my time, like Sasuke would. But secretly, I'm guessing she wants Boruto to do well, or at least be able to defend himself. The only one I would say that really has like 100% has her own identity is probably Chocho. Now, she does eat just as much as Choji does, but she has this carefree kind of laid back attitude, like, as long as I've got my potato chips, everything's all good. Then we get to the juice, the main squeeze of the episode. They do this obstacle course for Shino. Boruto completes it and he comes in second place, and he's like, well, who beat my first place? So Boruto goes back to the homeroom, and he's trying to have lunch with this other group of kids. They're like, nah. And at first I thought they were being a little bit immature about it, but now that I think about it again, I'm like, well, this does kind of make sense, because if Boruto decides to do something crazy, he's at the end of the day not going to be blamed for it, but the people who don't have a Hokage for a father are probably going to suffer a repercussion for it. So I get why they're a little bit reluctant to hang out with him. Then Boruto comes across the senior student Iwabe, who basically has been held back a couple years because he never graduated. And Iwabe's whole thing is an obsession with power. He thinks power is the biggest thing. If you don't have power, you're basically nowhere. But then Denkai brings up a good point, and so does Boruto. Like, if that was the case, you'd probably have graduated by now. This guy's basically looking for a reason to blame everybody else as to why he hasn't graduated. Boruto sees this and he defends Denkai. Before I get to that, Anko is the definition of peaceful times. A clear example that you can be in a very extremely stressful state and be fit at the same time because of war, because of all this other shit. But when times get peaceful again, oh, you know who your friend is. Boruto and Iwabe start fighting. You know, he gives him a handicap by basically saying, I'm not going to use my weapon, which I guess is cool. But instead, the first thing he uses are shuriken. Then I'm like, oh, well, I can see what type of fight this is going to be. They're going head to head. Boruto's pulling off some decent moves, so is Iwabe. And they have their little catalog of jutsu. Boruto knowing shadow clone jutsu, and Iwabe having a little bit more extensive knowledge when it comes to jutsu, like a substitution jutsu. He also knows earth style. The only complaint I would say I have about this fight is, again, with the shadow clones. I don't want Boruto to be a repeat of Naruto. I know he knows how to use shadow clones. I know he knows how to fight. But my biggest complaint when watching Naruto fights was Naruto's shadow clones always ended up making his opponent look better. Because the shadow clones are 1/10 the strength of the original. That being said, they're not going to put up much of a fight. So the enemy's going to defeat them really quickly, and he's going to look really good while he's doing it. If anything, my attention is more so geared towards the enemy who's pulling off these nice moves, defeating your shadow clones. I'll give Boruto this though, it's not like he's completely reliant on the shadow clones. He still has his own plan, his own mindset. And his taijutsu, I would say, is a lot better than Naruto's used to be. Seems like they can't go forward in this series without paying homage to some things that they used to do, because Boruto uses the same kick, punch, kick move that Sasuke uses against Kakashi back in episode 3 or 4 or 5 of the original Naruto. So I guess they're kind of alluding to the fact that Boruto may be a little bit more like Sasuke than people think when it comes to skill. Iwabe, of course, gets cocky and lets his guard down by assuming that he's got Boruto cornered, and then he goes down to try to attack him, and Boruto reveals that that's just a shadow clone. It hits him with a 3-piece combo, sends this dude flying. Iwabe's frustrated, he's mad, so he grabs his weapon and he's about to attack Boruto. This is where he reveals his Earth style. Inojin comes and takes his weapon from him and says, you know what? That's uncool. You can't say that you're strongest and go against your own rules. Everybody starts cheering. Boruto and Iwabe, finally conclude that the match is over. Shino comes in late as fuck. Boruto now having lunch offers, and Iwabe and Boruto becoming at least somewhat acquainted. They might not be best friends, but they have some sort of respect for one another now. Just to show the contrast of Inojin, like I said, he is like Sai in the sense that he's very direct, very honest, and cutthroat with what he says, but at the same time he has his own group of principles, because later in the episode he defends Boruto for defending Denkai. He calls this other group of kids uncool because they're still trying to hate on him, basically. So clearly all this is taking place before the Naruto Gaiden arc. Mitsuki hasn't been introduced yet, and looks like next episode is probably going to be centered around Metal Lee. I know it's Rock Lee's son, but I don't know who the mother is. It might be Tenten. Only other woman I could picture Rock Lee with. So maybe we're gonna get a little bit more information on that. But yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. I think the way the episode was done was pretty nice. Paying homage to some of the older Naruto episodes while still keeping it fresh. You let me know. Are you kind of tired of seeing this kiddie stuff? Are you ready to get into the real ninja action? Do you want them to have, this thing? I know you can't. You gotta progress the series, you gotta progress the episodes. You can't get that raw shit in the very beginning of the series, I understand that. But how long do you think it'll be until that happens? Like episode 50? Who knows? It's been Sean C. Hope you enjoyed the review. If you did, go ahead and leave a like rating down below. Comment what you thought about the episode, and I will see you next week for Boruto episode 3. Peace.